Welcome to the Super Over. I'm Jarrod Kimber, and we're here with Jade Dernbach to go through what was a great win for England as Harry Brook just very smartly batted, against Varun Chakravarti, got them home easily. Wait, just let me check. No, that's not what happened, Jade. Let's start with this. The Shivam Dube has to be man of the match because what a performance he put in. Great batting, and then he transformed into a fast bowler I've never seen before with Harshit Rana. I think the ICC have made a mistake here, Jade, because we made the mistake as well. We were going through the squad going, maybe he is like for like. And when he got concussed, they had to bring Harshit Rana in as his replacement. But Ramandeep Singh was in the side, and he's a batter who bowls a little bit. India probably got away with one here and everything else. But if you look at Shivam Dube making a 50 and then Harshit Rana taking 3 wickets, that one person combined was the difference between the two sides.
It certainly was, and that's... I guess if you added those two bits in, Dube's batting and the bowling, you've probably got yourself a very fine cricketer, which we saw today. So a 50 and 3 for 30 odd is taking it away from England. But I think you take away Dube's innings and the 3 wickets we're talking about now, I still think it's pretty poor performance from England, unfortunately, in the end with the bat.
Well, they dropped Shivam Dube on first ball, I think it was. Mm-hmm. So they had plenty of chances with him. And also... Harry Brook got on top of Harshit Rana and started smashing him everywhere. In fact, I'm going to go through it. England had the chase done, in my opinion, 3 times. The opening partnership, they were, 60 for none. When Brook and Liam Livingstone were batting together, they weren't just batting well, they were batting smart at that point, looking for twos and everything else. And then when Harry Brook got on top of Harshit Rana and started hitting the ball everywhere, England were, and I don't mean a little bit, they were massively in front in all 3 of those occasions, and they just kept giving India chances to get back in.
Yeah, it was pretty much the same story when it came to the bowling innings as well. There was a point, India was 79 for 5, 10 overs to go. England sort of got a stranglehold in the game, stepped away from their game plan, which had been so successful up until that point, when 2 to 3 overs of getting full and straight. Hardik Pandya then gets a 50. Playing some quite wonderful shots. Dube obviously getting on top of them as well. We then revert back to our plan of going into the wicket, make it a bit more difficult. We end up concussing Dube. He gets the world's best replacement to come in, gets 3 wickets, and we lose again.
Should have kept it full. This is my question. We weren't sure how the Brendan McCullum kind of Bazballification of T20 team and white ball team would go. It's actually very similar to Test cricket in that they are very aggressive and they do get themselves into good positions, but just like the Test team, they also just as quickly get themselves back into bad positions, right? Like, that's what we've seen. The bouncers have worked. The attacking batting at times has worked all the way down the order, but India's always back in those games because England just won't play sensible cricket. They just keep pushing all the time.
And that's absolutely fine, to the degree where we then can't expect them to make changes. And all we then end up doing is talking about either a wonderful performance of them blowing a team out the water or a capitulation in which we see there's not going to be very much middle ground. I guess my point on that is I think these players are far too good to be doing that to themselves. I think a Harry Brook who's just fought his way back into form gets a lovely 50 with a bit more batting smarts. He sees his team home there. He ends up 70, 80 not out. And everyone's talking about what a wonderful innings, apart from us now saying, oh, that was a pretty good start from him, but then he gave it away. And that seems to be an all too familiar affair. And I really hope that this group of England players, this exciting white ball setup we have, don't get defined by just being sort of flash in the pan players.
Let's just talk about Harry Brook, because it's really interesting. He's batted quite poorly in this series so far. He hasn't picked the wrong one at all. The one time he probably did pick the wrong one, he still dragged it back onto his stumps. We thought he batted quite well. He took some chances, but he took chances in a way that made the spinners have to recalibrate what they were doing to him. So it was worth him doing. He then gets into a situation where England's massively on top at that point, and he's got 1 over of Varun Chakravarti left, who has no wickets and has probably bowled as poorly as he has at any stage in this series. He's got 5 runs off the first 2 balls of the over, and then he tries to flick Varun Chakravarti over short fine leg, which is a fairly it's a very low outcome type of shot because of the lack of pace from Varun Chakravarti, and he ends up being caught. That's the way they want to play, right? So we're allowed to say, in this particular case, if you put yourself in a position to win the game, you also then put yourself in a position to lose the game, where the smarter thing in that situation was hit a bunch of singles for the rest of that over and then attack all the other bowlers. Like, I think that's fair from us, as outsiders.
I think they have to accept that fact. We are witnessing and only discussing the things that we are seeing put in front of us. That situation, to any layman, even lads who are playing club cricket on a Saturday, can realise that that's the pivotal over.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, very easy. Pivotal over. You see that through. Not just a case of being negative. This is where I think we need to get away from this word of being negative. By being smart doesn't make it negative. It really doesn't. And unfortunately, I feel like whenever it's attacked or brought up, this method of play, you all of a sudden, people see it as a negative in terms of how they want to go about playing cricket. It's not negative in the slightest. I'm just saying that getting down to try and scoop India's best bowler in a series where you've struggled to pick him when you're on top is a pretty poor decision. I think that's fair to say. Now, that doesn't take away from the fact you can't continue to be positive, because then, or the over previous, where you've taken down the seamers and made it look very simple and very easy, why wouldn't you just do that? I think India did that really well, in the sense of Hardik played out Adil, who he doesn't play. His strike rate to spin is just a fraction above 100, but to seam he strikes at nearly 150. So he then takes advantage when Mahmood comes back on. Dube, who plays well against spin and takes it down, takes on Adil Rashid. That's smart cricket. They're world champions for a reason. I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel.
And just to go forward with that, if you think about what they were doing as well, like, there is an element there of India got themselves what they were 12 for 3 or whatever. Was it 12 for 3? There was a lot of wickets early on. There were so many wickets. They actually kept playing smart attacking cricket all the way through. They didn't go back into their shell. So it's not like we're saying, oh, you need to rebuild or anything like that. Keep playing your cricket, but put every decision in a way that if you're taking a big risk, there's a reason for you to take the big risk. And in that particular case with Brook, it wasn't there. Just on India, it's a few times now they've lost their top order to England, and the back of the length ball seems to be playing a big part of it. I don't want to go too much on Sanju Samson, but he's been out quite a bit to that at this stage. It's a big question for India going forward, because other teams will be looking at this going, do we just try and bump them?
I think we're obviously in a privileged position. We've got all of our seamers bowling 140 plus, which obviously changes things. Extra pace does some strange things to batters at times. Sanju Samson finds himself in a difficult run of form. I think there's something technical going on with him personally. He was very deep in his crease. That first over to Jofra Archer, I was surprised he didn't stand on his stumps. He's that far back. Granted, Jofra was bowling 150 k's an hour.
The both of us would have been charging.
Yeah, I mean, no dramas at all. But I think it is something to look into. The way that the Indian players want to play, they want to hit you square of the wicket by giving themselves room. But obviously by bowling a bit shorter and cramping them for that into the body, into the ribs, they found it somewhat difficult. So I think teams will look at that. That pitch actually had a bit of pace in it. It's quite different to the surface we found the other night. So that's not probably the usual sort of pace the Indians are used to in their backyard, but it obviously worked in England's advantage.
I was actually thinking about this during the game, that, especially when England were batting, that India were a pace bowler short. And
how wrong could you be?
And it turned out that they had a spare pace bowler that none of us knew about, who was just hanging out. For those who don't know, Shivam Dube made a 50, got a concussion. He was replaced by Harshit Rana, despite the fact that Ramandeep Singh was there. But also, Harshit took a catch. He took 3 wickets. He did everything he needed to do. Anyway, that's it for us on the Super Over. That's Jade Dernbach. I'm Jarrod Kimber, and we'll see you again next time.